Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down the NHL DFS slate for Tuesday, January 17th. We got ourselves an 8-game slate here tonight, where I'm going to go through a couple of my favorite line stacks, some of my favorite individual plays, and some of my favorite value plays, and then we'll wrap up today's video talking a little prize picks. With that being said, let's dive into my spreadsheet here. And we're going to kick things off here like we always do in the top left-hand corner with those highest implied game totals, where you can see 4 of these games are coming in with an implied total of 6.5 goals, and then the other 4 games all coming in at 6 goals even. And then take a look down here at the Vegas odds, where you can see each team who's favored to win tonight. And here's a quick little schedule update. Again, I will be making an NHL video here today, Wednesday, and Thursday. I will not be breaking down that 2-game slate on Friday, but do plan to do something for that big Saturday slate. With that being said, let's dive into a couple of line stacks that I like here for tonight, starting with that first line for the Winnipeg Jets. We got Dubois centering Connor and Ehlers, and I know I've highlighted these 3 quite a bit here as of late, but as long as I can find cheap line stacks and plays to go along with this Jets first line, I will continue to play them. Like I've said here over the past week or so, there's just too much talent with these 3 here to ignore. All 3 of these guys are currently playing up on the Jets' #1 power play and have combined for 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points in 6 games since Nikolai Ehlers' return from IR. That's averaging over 4 points per game, and they have a great matchup to expand on that here tonight against the Montreal Canadiens, who've allowed 3.68 goals per game this season, the 6th most in the NHL, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 75% rate. And then a cheaper line stack that I like here tonight is that third line for the Philadelphia Flyers. We got Lawton centering Hayes and Allison. They have a great matchup at home here tonight against the Anaheim Ducks, a team that we've really been targeting all year long. This Ducks team has allowed a league-high 4.16 goals per game this season, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 71.8% rate. That's the 3rd worst in the NHL, and that is a team that is not afraid to take penalties, having taken the 2nd most across the entire league. Plus, they're playing on back-to-back nights after losing in Pittsburgh last night in overtime 4-3, so they might be able to catch this Ducks team a little fatigued. Now, we've seen Lawton and Hayes play up on the #1 power play. Lawton is for sure there right now. Hayes kind of mixes in between the 1st and 2nd, but both of these guys are getting time on the special teams. Wade Allison, not so much, but at that price of $2,900, it is easy to justify him in your lineup. Now, folks, before we dive into some of my favorite individual plays here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. And don't forget, I do have that Discord channel as well. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below. It is growing on a daily basis, primarily talking some hockey, but we got some other people talking some NBA and other sports too. Certainly don't be afraid to join that. It is designed to talk DFS in general and talk some prize picks too. Alright, now diving into some of my favorite individual plays here, we're going to kick it off with the forwards. First guy I got there is Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers. It looks like the Oilers are putting back together the big 3 on their first line of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman, so we can target any one of those guys when they're playing together 5-on-5. They absolutely dominate puck possession, and then you get all 3 of those guys playing up on the #1 power play too. It's just really expensive to put all 3 in your same DraftKings lineup. It's certainly doable, especially with some of the value that we have on this slate here tonight at the forward position, but I kind of picked Draisaitl out of that mix, like this price here at $7,900. He's scored in 3 straight games. He's been really solid here over his past 10, having racked up 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points, while averaging 3.5 shots on net per game. I then got John Tavares there of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I just think his price tag is a little too cheap at $6,400, especially considering how he's played here as of late, where he's racked up 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points in his past 10 games, while averaging around 3.5 shots on net per game and 15.5 DraftKings points per game. Now, he technically plays down on the 2nd line, but plays up on that #1 power play, and I certainly don't mind the matchup at home here tonight against the Florida Panthers, who've allowed 3.38 goals per game this season, with a penalty kill that's just hit at a 75% 60% rate, and this Panthers team is also playing on back-to-back nights after playing in Buffalo last night, so maybe Toronto can catch them a little fatigued. Now with this next play here in Patrick Kane to the Chicago Blackhawks, this is probably more of a tournament or GPP play for me. Not to say I wouldn't put him in my cash lineup, but targeting that Chicago team in general hasn't really been a cash strategy for me this year. But I do like the matchup at home here today against the Buffalo Sabres, a team that's allowed 3.48 goals per game this season, the 9th most in the NHL, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 73% rate. And Kaner's actually been really solid at home this year, having racked up 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 points in 22 home games, averaging around 13.2 DraftKings points per game, so over 2x value, and this is still someone who's got 20, 25, even 30 plus DraftKings point upside, especially in a matchup like this. But considering how bad that Chicago team is, I wouldn't be afraid to target the other side of this game as well with the Buffalo Sabres, even though they are playing on back-to-back nights after losing at home last night 4-1 to the Florida Panthers. This Chicago team has been brutal defensively this year, having allowed 3.71 goals per game, tied for the 4th most in the NHL, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 74% rate. Now Cousins plays down on the second line but plays up on the number 1 power play and has played some really good hockey this year. 14 goals, 26 assists, 40 points in 42 games, and played a consistent game at that. You can see here over his past 10, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points, while averaging 3 shots on net per game. I will say, I'm not in love with the 4 to 5K range here tonight for forwards. I put that in the notes off to the right-hand side, but I do like spending up for some of the guys in the 6 to 7K range, and think there's some nice value in the 3K range as well. But before we get into some of those sub 4K value plays that I like here today, do want to highlight Matt Duchene of the Nashville Predators at $4,900. Absolutely think he's viable at this price. He's currently playing up on that first line right now, but is playing down on the number 2 power play. I don't necessarily love that, but I do love the matchup at home here tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that's allowed 3.93 goals per game this season, the 2nd most in the NHL, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 76% rate. Now Duchene has had some highs and lows this year, but he still has some really nice upside in his game, and he's played better at home than he has on the road, having racked up 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points in 18 home games, averaging around 10 DraftKings points per game, but this is still someone who's got 20, 25 plus DraftKings point upside in his arsenal. Now moving over here to the defensemen, and there are quite a few top tier defensemen on this slate, but I'm not necessarily in love with how DraftKings price them. A few guys that I would be willing to pay up for is Jacob Chychrun here, Tony DeAngelo, as well as Roman Josi and Seth Jones. I kind of like targeting Arizona here tonight in a good home matchup against the Detroit Red Wings, a team that has not been very good defensively as of late. Over their past 6 games, they've allowed 3.83 goals per game, with a penalty kill that's hit at just a 66.7% rate. Chychrun's a guy who logs around 23 minutes per night, plays up on the number 1 power play, plays on the penalty kill, and can really rack up DraftKings points in a number of different ways. But we love the offensive side of Jacob Chychrun. This is a guy who's got 5 goals, 17 assists, 22 points in 27 games this year, and someone who's got 25 plus DraftKings point upside. Now with these next 2 plays here in Tony DeAngelo and Morgan Rielly, it's really simple, targeting them with forwards on the number 1 power play. You know, Tony DeAngelo, mix him in with the Scott Laughton, even a Travis Konechny who's been great this year, but they just have such a good matchup at home against the Anaheim Ducks, whose penalty kill is gross, and they take a lot of penalties. It makes sense to stack Tony DeAngelo with some of those forwards. And then Morgan Rielly here, that Florida Panthers penalty kill has not been very good this year either. Stack him up with John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander. There's a plethora of offensive weapons on that Toronto power play. And then one of the cheaper defensemen I am going to spend down for here today is Jake Wallman of the Detroit Red Wings. I mentioned this last week, but this guy only seems to get better with each and every game that he's playing. He's now racked up 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points here in his past 10 games, averaging around 2.5, 3 shots on net per game, and close to 2.5 block shots per game as well. That is all translated to almost 13 DraftKings points per game, absolutely smashing value at his current price of $4,100. We're going to see him play around 20 minutes here tonight, get time on that number 2 power play, and play on the penalty kill too. And then I got a couple of goaltenders there for you, a higher priced and lower priced option, but to be honest everyone, far from my favorite slate when it comes to goalie options. The safer route, in my opinion, is Connor Hellebuyck of the Winnipeg Jets. Been a top 3 goaltender all year long, and I know he burnt a handful of us just last week when they played Detroit, but he bounced back really well in his next 2 games, allowed just 3 goals on 62 shots on net, racking up 16.5 and 29.3 DraftKings points. That's the upside that he has. He really has been great all year long. You can see there he's got a 22-10-1 record. He's 7-3-0 in his past 10, with a goals allowed average of 2.37 and a save percentage of .926, averaging 17.5 DraftKings points per game this year. And then as a cheaper tournament option here, I went with Alex Stalock of the Chicago Blackhawks, and I know that probably sounds scary rostering a Chicago goaltender, but considering the slate, considering the price, and honestly, considering his numbers, I don't mind it as a tournament play. He's 6-6-1 on the season with a goals allowed average of 2.70 and a save percentage of .918. Not bad considering he plays for one of the worst teams in the NHL, averaging around 14 DraftKings points per game, and again, catching the Sabres team playing on back-to-back nights after having lost 4-1 last night to the Florida Panthers. And as always, going to wrap up this spreadsheet here with 3 low-priced options or sub-4K forward plays. And as I mentioned earlier, I think there's some really nice value at the forward position tonight in the 3K range. Also mentioned Perfetti here, the Winnipeg Jets, and Tolvanen of the Seattle Kraken. But let's kick it off here with Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings, currently playing up on the first line in #1 power play, has really found his groove here as of late, having racked up 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points in his past 10 games, averaging close to 12 DraftKings points per game. Juuso Parssinen there of the Nashville Predators, currently playing up on the first line in #1 power play. The 21-year-old rookie has quickly made a name for himself on this Predators team with 5 goals, 13 assists, 18 points in 29 games, and he just scored last night as well. And then Barrett Hayton there of the Arizona Coyotes, playing up on the first line in #1 power play himself. He's got 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in his past 10 games, averaging around 11 DraftKings points per game, and again has a good matchup at home here tonight against the Detroit Red Wings, who have started to slump defensively as of late. And then to wrap up this video here, everyone, want to talk a little prize picks with you guys. 8-game slate here tonight. We should have some solid props to choose from, and it sounds like a taco pick might be coming our way on the NHL side of things as well. I got to look into that a little bit more, but was looking at the Discord. Sounds like McDavid might be the option today. We'll have to keep an eye out for that, but for those of you who have not signed up for prize picks yet and want to get in on this action, I got a promo code that you should definitely take advantage of. When you're signing up, use my promo code GRIFF, GRIFF, and PrizePicks will give you all the way up to a $100 match deposit. Now again, you do not have to put $100 in either. You want to put in 50, they'll match 50. You want to put in 20, they'll match that $20. And again, we'll match anything up to $100. Again, as long as you're using my promo code GRIFF, GRIFF, upon signing up. But for those of you who are in the game already, you know the deal here. I'm going to go through these picks individually and then let you know my favorites in a comment below, and I'll be sure to pin that comment as well. Don't forget, I am posting those in my Discord channel too, and if you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up today's video. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great day here, folks. Let's win some money on this 8-game slate. In the meantime, I'm out of here.